welcome to episode 13 of Musical Reflections of a Slightly Conscious Being. I'm Sandra, a music artist that is on a journey towards consciousness, and today I'm going to share a song called Mended Hearts, and I'll be talking about creating healthy relationships. So on episode, I already did an episode. Episode 10 was about balance in human interactions, and it's the only episode that I talked about balance in human relationships. And today it's kind of going to be not a continuation, but it will be on the same subject, but under a different approach. So with a new year coming, many people do New Year's resolutions and all of that. I do feel it's also a great time of the year for us, not only to look for the next year, but also to look back and do some life assessment, like what have you done this year, right? Instead of being focused on the next year and thinking about resolutions about the future, what have you done this year? Have you thought about that? What have you done? And being this the last episode of the year, I did that. I did the same. I looked back to where I was 1 year ago. And of course, there were many things happening in my life this year, but it all came down to this subject. It all came down it was all about building healthy relationships or healthier relationships, personal and professional, with family, friends, and last but not least, a romantic relationship. So for this to be possible, I had to work on the most challenging relationship of them all. And I do feel it's the most challenging relationship for all of us. And that is the relationship that we have with ourselves, right? Isn't that the hardest relationship of all? So after the end that happened, now that more than 1 year, but more or less 1 year ago, I was ending a romantic relationship that lasted for 16 years. And some big questions that I faced over this last year is, who am I now? Who am I? And who am I and that was pretty much the very questions I asked myself and tried to answer. Finding myself, and of course that could only possible after grieving, right? After accepting, because first you have all these feelings inside that I had to manage. I had practical affairs that I had to manage, so we had a house together, so we had to figure out who was going to get the house. And I have to, since when I decided that I didn't want to have the house, okay, I had to decide where was I going to live and all of that. So there were many things that needed to be sorted. And my grieving process was a bit on hold till all of that was figured out. So I came to live here in March. March 8th was when I had my internet connection here, when I started working in the place I am right now. So it was pretty much there that I started working and grieving and feeling all these feelings. And after I reached the acceptance stage, and we talked about the stages of grief on other episodes as well. When I reached the acceptance phase and stage, and I knew I was on acceptance when I was already able to look back without being overwhelmed by feelings, and I could already see that there were also good moments on the past, and it was not all negative. That's when I felt like I was healing and finally accepting everything that happened. And that's when I started to reconnect with myself, and I started to finally get the answers to those questions, like, who am I now as my own person? And as I started to reconnect with myself, I began to ask as well, like, okay, so this is who I am, and what do I want from my next romantic relationship? So, like I said on episode 10, I talked about balance in human interactions and how I managed to find a healthy balance in relationships with friends and family through therapy. But unfortunately, I just wasn't successful using the same methods on that romantic relationship I was in. It did improve. It did improve over the last years, but it just wasn't enough. But therapy did help me see that the person I was with was on a different level of emotional awareness and just wasn't able to invest the same amount of work and effort I felt I was investing in that relationship. So therapy did help. It didn't help in the way I thought it would help, but it helped me realize that I've had enough and that it was time to move on. It was time to throw in the towel and just to let go once and for all. So after I did everything I had to do and felt what I had to feel, and I tried to express my feelings in healthy ways. And healthy ways for me is crying. I cry a lot. I also screamed a lot. Wrote a lot of music that I've been sharing over this past year with you guys and on these episodes. And well, I kind of grieved in my own style and at my own pace, right? And that's when I start asking, okay, so now that you felt everything you had to feel, you're starting to reconnect with yourself, you're starting to feel good with yourself. And I felt like I was having finally a healthy relationship with myself. And I had a healthy relationship with my parents already. I had my relationship with my friends also changed because I changed. So it's just normal. Me also coming here to my home city, it changed the relationship I had with my parents because we are living closer. So it also took a bit of adjusting, but that was pretty much all fine and working in a healthy way. So I started asking myself, okay, so what do I want from my next romantic relationship? Do I even want a relationship? That's important also to ask, right? And so I wrote this song that I'm going to show you guys. And it's a very, very, very special song. So special that I even have a recorded demo and I'll be singing and playing over it. And I wrote this song. And it's something that I've never done before, but I wrote this song as if I was already with the person I envisioned myself with. So this song you're going to hear, it is a love song. It is like it was written for someone, but it was actually written while I was still alone. So it was kind of an interesting, I've never done anything like that before. And so it was an interesting experience. I hope you guys like. So this is what real love is like. So understanding and so kind, so simple and yet so right. Thank you for helping me realize that all I've been through before, years of pain, resentment and more, two black holes sucking each other dry. That's not love, it's just a tragic side. But you have to know the shadow and recognize the light that comes from deep inside. I see it reflected in your loving eyes. Two mended hearts that now shine First time here doing this with other recorded versions of myself. All right, there you go. and it's a very small song. Actually, I did the demo with this song and two others that I've done. But I'm kind of doing a Bohemian Rhapsody thing. I don't know if you guys know this, but Bohemian Rhapsody was actually a mix. It was there were many different songs, many different demos that Freddie Mercury did, and then they put all those demos together, all those small demos together, to make Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know if you knew this, and so basically I kind of did the same, but for the sake of this episode, I'm just presenting the first part. The full song has 3 different songs, or 3 different demos, but there you go. So that's why it's so short. But well, most of the songs that I've been presenting here, not all of them, but some of them are very short because they were demos that I created and I just never developed. It was just some ideas that I wrote. And so they are kind of unfinished. I still don't know if I'm going to finish some of them, but I really like what I did with this one, that I kind of put it together with others. And I felt that worked. It's different because usually songs have a very specific structure, but I like that this one evolves into another 2 different songs. So, but for you guys, I just have one for now. Deserves an encore. Maybe in the end, I'll sing it for you guys again. Okay, so welcome again to episode 13 of Musical Reflections of a Slightly Conscious Being. I'm Sandra, a music artist that is on a journey towards consciousness, and I just shared my song Mended Hearts, and today I'll be talking about creating healthy relationships. So I'm going to start with the lyrics, and then I'm going to talk about how I wrote these lyrics, because I already spoke a bit how I wrote the state I was when I wrote this song, like what I did it kind of. I don't know if you guys know about manifestation. There's all this law of attraction thing that I find really fascinating. It's basically this theory that states that you create your own reality and that you can manifest your own reality by adjusting your vibration. And so it was kind of a manifestation song. I wrote it envisioning myself like I was already with a person when I was totally I haven't even met anyone. I was alone. So let's start with the lyrics. So this is what real love feels like. So understanding and so kind. So simple and yet so right. Thank you for helping me realize that all I've been through before, years of pain, resentment, and more, 2 black holes sucking each other dry. That's not love, it's just a tragic sight. But you have to know the shadow to recognize the light that comes from deep inside. I see it reflected in your loving eyes, 2 mended hearts that now shine bright. There you go. Really easy and simple. But basically, this is what I wanted to experience. I wanted to be with someone who showed emotional awareness and kindness that made problem solving simple. One of the challenges that I had a lot with my former partner was communication. It was always so hard to talk about things. And I just wanted someone who made it simple, not made it simple, but just someone who I could communicate easily and effectively. And basically, it's just a confirmation of what I already felt inside, that my former relationship was just dysfunctional and that things didn't need to be that hard, right? Things didn't need to be that hard, complicated, or painful, that things could be simple, But if there's one thing that I realized through my past experience, is that unfortunately we only reach emotional awareness through pain. So getting your heart broken pushes you to face yourself if you're brave enough not to project your pain towards others, right? Because some people just get their heart broken and they blame the world and blame everyone else. And it's not a matter of blaming, but it's also a matter of taking responsibility and facing yourself, facing your part in the story, right? And that's what I did. I envisioned myself being with someone that had his heart broken before too, because that way I think we could both really value and appreciate each other in a proper way, if that makes sense. So, and finally, still about the lyrics, I've mentioned how I saw myself loving someone that would mirror my feelings. And this is something that I've learned, and many people say this. I'm a big fan of the holistic psychologist. That's a page on Instagram, and she's huge, guys. She has a lot of followers, and she's amazing. She shares a lot of psychological advice. And the other day she made a post saying this exact same thing, and it's so true, is that people only love in the measure that they love themselves. So you can only love someone in the measure that you love yourself, and you can only get to know someone in the measure that you know yourself. So I also envision myself with someone that would be able to love me in the same way I felt able to love. So that's what I did. That's what I did on this song, and that's where it comes. You have to know the shadow to recognize the light. But that light comes from deep inside of you. It comes from deep inside of us. And the relationship, the quality of relationships that you can have, and now talking about overall relationships, it only comes to that level. It's if you are, for instance, with my parents, your parents can only love you at their own level. And you can only love your parents at your own level of awareness, of emotional awareness. And what happens is sometimes we expect people to be on the same level as we are. And every people has their own very personal level. And some people just cannot go deeper than that, And that's one of the work that I did with my parents that allowed me to reconnect with them in a very special way, is to accept the level they are in, And I think that is so special. It's just I know that probably there are actions that my parents would never have towards me, but they don't have to have them, because I accept them the way they are, and giving you guys a very specific example, I know and I feel in my heart that my parents are proud of the person I am today, but it's not in their way to tell that to me directly. I know that probably I will never hear my dad or my mom say, "I'm proud of you," with these words, but they don't have to, because they show it in other ways. And even the other day, I went to a car ride with my dad. It's something that I haven't done in a long time, and I always loved going for car rides with my dad. And he came here, and I wasn't doing anything special. And so, "You want to go for a car ride?" And yeah, let's go. And we went for a car ride together. And I was talking with him about a conversation that I had with another person. And I said something to this person, because I do feel like that person was expecting something out of me that it wasn't my place to do. And I stated that, "I'm sorry, but that's not my place. Like, I won't do that. It's not something I'm going to do." And I was telling that to my dad. And the way my dad reacted, he had a smile on his face. And I can tell that's his proud smile. When he smiles like that, I can tell, okay, that's his way of saying he's proud of me. And since I don't expect him to do it on a different level, I accept his level. And I learned to read the way he communicates on his own level. And so that smile for me is everything. And it made me feel so good, right? But that can only happen out of a place of acceptance of his level. Of course, these are my parents, and I chose to accept them and to be on a relationship with them on the level that is possible, right? It didn't happen. The same thing didn't happen on my relationship and on my past relationship. I just came to a point that it just wasn't acceptable. the difference that was of emotional awareness that we had. It was just not acceptable for me, for my expectations, because let's face it, we all have expectations. Of course, we can learn to manage them, but in the end, we all have expectations about relationships with others. And we can do the same work with our friends, right? Just that's because why some people just stop being friends with us and we stop being friends with them. Sometimes it's just different expectations, different lifestyles. We change, other people change, we grow. Some people get out of our lives. I had that conversation with Hambo the other day on the chat, right? We were exactly talking about that, how some people that we are so close to some people at some points in our lives, and then life happens or people drift away, and that's just what happens. People just change, we change, and sometimes our level of awareness also changes, our communication changes, our interests change, and some people just stop making sense in our lives, right? So let me just say thank you so much, Kaz. Oh my gosh, thank you for the super chat. Finally getting super chat. I've been getting super chat I think for 1 year or 2. But thank you so much. Did he like to drive the BMW? No, Stig. We went on his car. My dad has a Peugeot. I've told you my family has a thing for French cars. I'm the black sheep of the family. I have a German car. No, I'm kidding. Some of my uncles also have German cars. But my dad has driven my car. Yes. Spoiler alert. I don't like him to drive my car, but he has driven my car. Okay. Back to the conversation. There, I talked about my car this stream. Every stream I have to mention my car. You guys are the ones to blame right now. It's not me. Okay. Going back to to what I had for you guys today. So, truth is, most people don't ever think about what they truly want in a relationship, right? They just go from relationship to relationship without even giving a second thought. Like, what do you really want in a relationship? Some people do think about this, but some people ask for superficial stuff, right? And usually that's just a mirror of their own insecurities. Like people who ask, oh, I want to be with someone who's extra rich. Well, why can't you get rich yourself? Like, why do you have to get a person? Why do you need to have to be with someone to feel financially stable, right? That it's kind of mirroring your own insecurities if you think about it. And some people ask for qualities in a partner that they don't have in themselves, which is kind of a weird thing to do, right? Like you asking for honesty if you are not honest, right? It just doesn't make sense. But some people are just so much like that, right? They ask for qualities and they expect to see qualities in others that they don't work on themselves. So when I wrote this song, I made sure I was only asking for things I already had within myself. So basically, I reached the conclusion that I didn't want anything extra. I just wanted to find someone I could share what I already had found within myself. To know someone who would appreciate it because he had done that work as well, and someone that had a similar emotional awareness level. Because I felt like that way we could be on the same page about what we wanted and the level of intimacy, of emotional intimacy and security that we wanted on a relationship. So I also thought about other qualities that I don't mention or I didn't mention on this song. For instance, I am a very open, direct, and honest person. And so I value those qualities as well. And it just made sense to me that I would be with a person like that. And when I defined what mattered in that person, I then start thinking about what kind of relationship I wanted to have, because I think that's important as well. Let me just catch up the chat a bit. You need to make a BMW song. Oh, Stig, that's perfect. I don't know. Oh, hey, that could be a cool idea. Sheldon is saying, but we have standards, relationships can be toxic. I had realized it when people take advantage of me. I would rather be a loner than being someone uncomfortable, but being patient is a key. The thing about, like, if you have those standards within yourself, it's easy to say no, Sheldon. And that happened, and I just said, my last relationship was dysfunctional and toxic. But a relationship is made of two people, right? It's just a matter of setting boundaries. And I was also a very toxic person for a very long time in my life. And I I wasn't aware that I was toxic. When I went through therapy, I realized that I was actually enabling that toxicity in my life. So thing is about when you say, and now it's a lot of fashionable to say that people are narcissists or this or that and to blame others. But the thing is, if you are on a relationship and you are comfortable with yourself, you love yourself, it's easy for you to spot when people are just being toxic or basically reflecting their own insecurities on you. It gets obvious. So it's also very easy for you to say no, and that's why I'm sharing everything that I've done, this work that I did even before I was on a relationship. So this is basically doing that. It's having standards. And the standards I had were the standards I wanted to have in my relationship were the same standards I had to myself when I was alone, So that's basically the work I did. And then I started thinking about what kind of relationship I did want, because I was on a conventional relationship for 16 years. So I thought what kind of relationship I wanted to have. And over the months I was alone, and I was 11 months alone, I confirmed something that deep down I always knew about myself, is that, and this is my experience, of course, no judgment because everyone is different. But what I realized about myself is that I cannot feel any physical connection without an emotional connection as well. It's something that is very personal. So, of course, things like one night stands or rebounds or anything casual were all out of the question. It just didn't make sense to the person I am. And that helped me filter, because I had many friends like, oh, maybe you should have a rebound or this or that. And I know they were just friendly advice. They were giving friendly advice. They were trying to help. But that's the thing. You have to do the work, know yourself, to realize what makes sense to you as a person and what doesn't. And at the time I wrote this song, I realized something really meaningful. And I felt that realization was one of the biggest realizations I had, is that I really wanted to fall in love. And feeling loved back, and for me that's huge, because I haven't felt that way since I was 18, Well, the thing is, surely over the years there were some guys that sparked an interest, but especially, because in my past relationship, me and my former partner, we were separated many times, and that happened a lot throughout the years. But the thing is, the emotional connection was always there. So it was never possible for me to connect with another person. So I remember thinking that I miss falling in love. I really want to fall in love, and to experience that deep emotional and physical connection with someone that felt it too, because that's something that always happened in my past. I was always unable to fall in love with someone that didn't also felt something for me. It's something that it's something very personal. I've felt interest towards guys that haven't felt the same towards me. But when that happens, the feeling never was too intense. It was like, okay, I'm not feeling, there's no feedback. So it was always very easy for me to move on when the feelings weren't mutual. I guess it just comes out of respect, because when you like someone, that doesn't mean that person has to like you back. And if they don't, that's totally fine. It's their right. And it was always something that I had always very, very well defined in me ever since I was, a teenager in high school, even through, people were going through that high school drama. And I was always very sure of myself, like, if I liked the guy and he didn't like me back, that's fine. I just move on. So I always had that. And I felt, now I'm older, and I just have to reconnect with that emotional, because that is actually being really well resolved, right? And one of the most I didn't went in many dates, but there was a date that it was the only time, because usually when I went on dates, I wouldn't feel an interest, and I would be honest, like, I didn't feel an interest, I didn't feel a connection. But there was this only one date that I went. I didn't feel the connection, but it was actually the guy who rejected me first, and it was the very first time I was ever rejected by a guy on a date, and he ghosted me, just disappeared, and I knew he was going to do that even before he did. And it was kind of an interesting experience, because I was totally fine with it, because I wasn't interested on the guy either. But it was actually a really interesting experience, because it just served to remind me that I was totally cool with rejection. I was always totally cool with rejection, and that's fine. I'm not afraid of that. So it was actually a really good learning experience. Every date I was a learning experience to me. And now to the interesting point and the conclusion of all this story of me writing this song, envisioning the relationship I wanted, or what I wanted. And, I came to the conclusion that, to be honest, I didn't even care if I was going to have a relationship or not. What I really wanted was to fall in love and to be loved back, to have that experience. I didn't care much about what would happen after that, to be honest, if we would have a conventional relationship or not. But what's interesting is what happened 1 month after I wrote this song. So 1 month after I did this work and I wrote this song, I met someone. And I met a very special person that has all these qualities I envisioned. And almost 1 year alone, after almost 1 year alone, 1 year of challenges and grief and deep transformation, what I worked and wished for came true in an almost magical way. It's so magical, and so that's this year's balance and lesson. And it's basically what I have for you guys in the last streaming of the year, that I think is so special. It's New Year's is a time for resolutions, new starts, but also to celebrate the year that came to an end, and to honor all the growth and processes that you went through. And for me, what I have for you guys is basically this: work on yourself, become the person you want to be, and the rest will happen. It happened for me. It's like, I don't like the expression happy ending, or because there's no endings. Life is a journey, right? And every New Year's is the end of the year. It's the beginning of something new. Every end is the beginning of something new, right? But it's just so magical that it happens, right? That it happened this way, especially because relating with others was always one of my most difficult challenges. If there's something I learned throughout this year, is that it all starts with you and your relationship with yourself, and the rest just starts to happen naturally. But you have to understand what you do want, because once you realize what you do want, it's really easy to spot when it's not what you want. Right. And I guess that's the main part of the work I did, is that it was easy for me to spot when it wasn't what I wanted. And when the person that ticked all the boxes came into my life, I was aware, in a sense, like I was paying attention. And it didn't happen on the first date. We got to know each other first, but every time I got to know him better, I could see one more quality, one more box being ticked, and it was amazing. Then it just happened. So it's definitely worth it, guys. It's not, looking back to how far I've come in 1 year. I mean, it's hard. But looking back to where I was 1 year ago, I could never. I could never guess that I would be where I am, where I am today. And I'm talking about being on a relationship that makes me feel so happy. But not only that, even in professional terms, I've built professional relationships throughout this year, partnerships that would never been possible if I haven't worked on myself first. So it's worth it, guys. And don't give up hope just because you had bad experiences. Don't give up hope. Keep believing. Don't stop believing. It's a great song, but it's also a great lesson. It's just don't stop believing and work on yourself. Because when you work on yourself, you start attracting people around you that do the same and can love you the same way that you are able to love.